Okay, hey guys, this is part 5 of the video talking about how I got into games, going from employee to entrepreneur. Trying to remember where I was up to again because it's been a little while. As you can see, I'm sort of getting ready to go to bed, and it's ultra late here. It's like 3:20 in the morning, but it's kind of normal hours for me at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah, so I'd been let go from EA, and then at that point I was kind of scared. I remember because I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I had a pretty good started to get a fairly good understanding in Unity at the time as well. So I was building this FPS game, but I remember at that point, once I'd been let go, I was like, right, I need to go and start building and releasing games right now, and it can't be a long process. So I went out to go and get my first MacBook Pro. I did a little bit of research on what should I buy? What do I need to build games? And obviously you need a developer account, and you need to test on some device. And I had an iPod 4, but I needed to go out and get a Mac. So I got my old Mac, which I have from 2011, which is sitting right over here at the moment, and it's been trusty and working fairly well for 4 years, even though the battery doesn't work on that one right now. So what I needed to do at that time is I needed to get games built quickly and get them released so that they could start making revenue, and they could basically get me up to a point where I was able to cover the salary that I was making before in EA, and the easiest way to do that was to go onto iPhone, because I could build something small, and I wanted to get it done fast so that I could test it out, get into the market, and start making money. And the first thing, so basically, I scrapped the FPS project. That was kind of gone because the FPS thing was just huge. It was just a massive undertaking, which was one of the big things that I learned as well. Is in mobile game development, if you're coming into it, it's a good idea to do something small in the beginning, because then you can get it done, you can get it polished, and you can get it released. Even if it's not polished, even if it's not good, you can go through the full loop of design, development, testing, publishing, and marketing if you wanted to do all, if you want to go through all 5, including marketing. But don't do anything big. Do something small, because that FPS game, I could tell after just a week or so, a couple of weeks or whatever, that it was going to be massive. So I dropped that completely and never came back to it. But I did play it a couple of times or mess around with it just to kind of reminisce. That was built in Unity 3.5 or 3.4 or whatever it was at the time. But the first game I tried to do on iPhone was the first game that I did on iPhone was basically this little flying chick, and the game's called Go Chick Go, which is still available on iPhone now. And all you do is you fly up as a little chick, and you're meant to dodge these falling animals left and right. And I tried to make it as simple as I could, and try and get something produced fairly quick. And that first game took around 6 weeks to develop from start to finish. I think it was 6 weeks, but that's because it was brand new for me. I had to learn pretty much everything about, almost everything about Unity iPhone development. So I had to do a lot of research on optimization, setting the correct materials, how to handle textures, how to be frame rate independent, parallax scrolling, animation, everything. So, and then also my friend was helping me on the artwork side as well. So we developed that project together. So he was the artist working on the characters and the backgrounds, and I was doing the coding. So that was a good way to get the game done. And we didn't know anything about SEO at the time or anything about marketing or whatever, but it took 6 weeks, which was a long time for a game like that to get done, actually, I think. Just because I didn't know anything about iPhone development, I had to go through everything. A lot of reading, a lot of time. that was the point I remember where my hours started to get messed up as well. I started to work just ridiculously long hours all the way from like sort of like late morning all the way through to like early morning, working in bed, just constant work all the time, going to coffee shops to work and just working, trying to figure out Unity, trying to understand how it works, and basically looking at things like marketing, and it was a ton of work, and that took around 6 weeks to get it done. And when we released it, I think we released it with iAds in the game. Yeah, it was released with iAds in the game. So the iAd banners at the top of the screen. And the reason that we went with iAd was because I didn't really know any other ad networks at the time, and we had read online about iAds get tons of money, because I read a story about some guy who did a flashlight app and it got like $1,800 in one day. So I was like, wow, we'll make a ton of money. Yes. For like the third time. No, it didn't make anything. It made 1 cent in a day. 1 cent, not $1, 1 cent. I think in the second day it made 2 cents, and that was about it. And it just trailed around that mark. It was just ridiculous, like 1 cent, 2 cents. It was heartbreaking, because I'd heard so much about how iPhone was like a gold mine, and I think in early 2011 it still kind of was, but because I didn't know anything about SEO or ad networks or in-app purchases at the time, it just wasn't successful. Like App Store optimization, the title, the icon, screenshots, I think they looked pretty good, but they weren't like optimized or carefully thought out, anything like that, which was a big missed opportunity, but it was a learning time as well. So but just 1-2 cents a day. I tried to do some marketing on that by writing articles. Like I wrote, if you go online and if you look for like Go designing it or building it, I think it's on gamasutra.com. I wrote an article about building that game, and thinking that would bring in a ton of downloads. It just did not. Absolutely, just useless for marketing. If anything, it was just an okay experience in writing an article, but completely useless in terms of marketing. And I think we were planning to do an update of that game, Go Chick Go. So we were looking at a second version. And we spoke with a publisher, I think it was Big Fish, about them possibly publishing the game. And there was some money on the table, and they said, hey, you got to finish the game, and you can get this money. But I just couldn't get around to getting the game finished, because the problem was it was just taking so long to get this first game, second version done. It was just taking so long. All of the languages needed to be done. I didn't have any kind of like JSON file stuff going on, so I had to like use the textures, and that really took a long time to get done. And even though there was money on the table that could have been had if we'd done that, I just thought, no, this is really going to take me like a couple of months just to get this one game done, even though there is some money on the table. So what I decided to do was a second game, which was Chick's Revenge. And Chick's Revenge, actually, the first version, I think probably took around a month. And that was a little bit of a different game in that it had a different mechanic, but it was still very casual, still very small, still trying to make money from iAds or AdMob. And I remember testing this game with a bunch of people, and they were tapping it and enjoying it and playing it, and I was kind of excited, like, oh, this person likes it, or oh, it's good feedback, yeah, this is going to make great money, now it will. No, it didn't make any money at all. it didn't make nothing, but virtually nothing. So that was like the fourth time where I was just like, oh yeah, this will make a ton of money, and it just never does. Most of the time it doesn't. Money trickles in from many different avenues. Those hits they happen once in a blue moon, so don't base your business model on hits. It just won't happen. That's okay, that doesn't matter. If your business model is based on like, you do one game and it brings in a little bit of money, or you do, you sell one thing and it brings in a little bit of money, then another, and fine. Don't ever think that your game is going to be a hit, and you don't make that your business model, because you're very likely to be disappointed. And not just on mobile, I mean on kind of anything. If you've not got the experience of making a hit game or releasing a hit game as a big publisher, then don't expect that, and don't build it into the business model. So the game, anyway, the Chick's Revenge, actually the second version, I managed to secure some funding to build that onto Android as well. So there was a publisher that I worked with, and I can't share the name because of the NDA, but they basically said, here's some money to finish the game on Android, but you've got to use our network. I was like, okay, great. So I calculated how much it cost to get on Android and looked into Unity, all the documentation, and that's how I started to do Android games as well, not just iPhone, because Unity could do that. That wasn't initially my plan. My initial plan was just to get an iPhone. I didn't even think about Unity or Google Play or anything. I didn't really know much about it until they mentioned it, and they said, oh, well, let us know how much it costs to do this game, and you do it. And the update of the game, I did it and got the funding to cover that. It took around about 2 months to get that done with multiple levels. So I had to handle all of the artwork, the particle effects, obviously the level system, ad networks, monetization, all of that stuff, testing, optimization. So I was doing everything from start to finish myself, which is a great experience. And also the thing is that I was now working with the publisher. The publisher had faith in the game, and so I thought, great, well, they know the game is good. They've got the experience, they've got the money, and they've got the network, and so great, I'm going to be rich this time. And it released, and no, it did not happen. I didn't make any money again. Well, like very little money, very, very little money, because we had some advertising dollars, but the advertising dollars, we quickly decided to stop using them because the game was just not bringing in any money. And, if you're paying like $1 for a download or whatever, and your game is only bringing in 10 cents for $1, you're losing 90 cents, so there's no point. You're not going to... And if you've not got like, $50,000 to drive it up to the top of the app stores to get more organic installs, then that doesn't happen. But it was very interesting to see how downloads affected rank, and how CPI works, cost per install, which was kind of like my first introduction to user acquisition through ad networks. So that was really interesting, but also very disappointing, because I thought, I'm now cooperating with a big company, and I've got this contact and everything's good, and I'm going to make a ton of money. And no, it did not happen again. Again, it didn't happen. So I think, I'm trying to think where I was living at this point. I think we'd moved to a different part of Shanghai at this point, and at the time, this was when it was getting like tough for me. Financially, it was getting tough. I was spending a lot more than what I was making, and the money in my bank was going down and down and down, and my health was starting to take a hit as well. I think maybe a lot of you guys remember, that's when I first started to release videos on YouTube, videos to promote our games and videos to try and get more downloads. Not really videos for how to make mobile games, but I was doing the videos, and that's when my skin started to get really bad at that time as well. I was overworking on this project. This was the Chicks Revenge project. And my hours started to get messed up even more. I started to feel heavy pressure and heavy disappointment as well, that things were just not happening. I wasn't making any money. I was losing money all the time, because it's not cheap to live here in Shanghai, really, especially like if you want to sort of maintain a Western lifestyle. My money kind of went down to like about £1,000 in my bank, and that had been like the lowest point that I'd been in years. And that, you know, in some places that might sound like okay money, but you know, not when everything depends on me. And it was like I said, the cost of living in Shanghai is not cheap, so I really felt a lot of pressure at that point, really heavy pressure. And I can't remember what exactly I was doing at the time, like work-wise. Apart from working on mobile games, I don't think I was doing any teaching or anything like that. I think there was a turnaround point. I had reached like £1,000 in my account, and I was really starting to get worried. And in fact, my mum had to pay for some insurance for me. Because my money was getting that low, and I didn't want to spend it. I didn't want to spend money on anything, really. I didn't want to spend any money at all. And so my mum got me some insurance at that point, because obviously, you know, out here you need insurance. There's no like public healthcare. So I think the turnaround point after that came in. I'm trying to think of the date. Wasn't 2000, was it? I think it was early 2012. So yeah, I had started in early 2011. That was Cobalt Play. And for about, I think maybe late 2000. Actually, no. I think it might have been late 2011 when things started to turn around a little bit. Yeah, because I'd spent a lot of money, spending money on a Mac, getting insurance. Moving apartment always costs a lot, really. Some other things happened, and that was also expensive. I might have travelled home at that point as well, which is expensive. So what I decided to do was build a game fast and just get it into the market. I wanted to build something that was retro and fun for me to play, easy for me to play, because I'm always into like the old school retro style graphics, and I thought, well, I like this, so I'll build it real quick. And I built a game in like a few days, and that was Accelerate X. That was the first of the X series, and that's still available on iPhone now, and I still find it a lot of fun to play. All it is, it's similar to Go Chick Go. You just move an object at the bottom of the screen and avoid the falling blocks as they come down. And I really enjoyed that game, playing it. So I built something for myself, and I built it in a few days, and I published it. And I think I published it on Google Play and on iOS. And then I built a second game, and I think that was Ascendex, which is still available on iPhone as well. And then a bunch of other those X series games. And I built those games really fast, like sort of in a few days. I built one game, like literally 4 days, one game, and then got it out into the store and published on Google Play and iOS. And that's when things started to turn around. I started to finally make some okay money. I started to reach the point where I was able to sort of like comfortably pay for myself in early 2012. So it wasn't a huge amount. I think I was sort of reaching around $100 a day roughly on AdMob. I think it went up to $120 a day on AdMob. The reason I was getting a ton of good downloads, though, is because I just jammed so many keywords into the description in Google Play, and that was the main app store for me at the time. But that was a mistake, because after a month or two, things going really well, Google basically cancelled the account, which was really heartbreaking for me, because I was finally getting somewhere, and it was finally building up. And I didn't know at the time what Google was like in terms of how strict they were with the App Store accounts, and not keyword spamming, because it was keyword spamming. I was writing loads of stuff in that description. And so they cancelled the account, and it totally broke my heart. I was like, oh my God. Now I was really, really upset about that because I didn't know what to do. At the same time, during that period as well, I'd got some funding from a publisher in Shanghai to work on a Tiny Tower style game. I'd spoken to them and said, hey, we could build a game called Tiny Tower. Build a game like Tiny Tower or Dream Heights or whatever, and release it onto their platform. And so we were doing that with a team in. So I was in Shanghai. Our producer was based over in Malaysia, and the development team was in Pakistan, and our artist was in India. I think those are the 4 locations of where we had everybody building this game, and it took 8 months to build, or something like that. 8 months to build this Tiny Tower style game, because it's not a simple game. All of the characters and the different stores that you could have and the upgrades, all of the artwork, testing, the in-app purchases. And I'm going to tell you the same thing again. This was like the 6th time when I said, oh wow, we'll make good money, and it made nothing again. Absolutely nothing again. And it took 8, 9, 10 months to build, and luckily we had the funding for that. We planned out the money, we managed to pay the team to build it, the artist, the producer. I don't think I paid myself until the end, because I was working on my own games through Cobble Play, still programming, still coding, and do all the artwork for my own games, everything from start to finish. But this Monster Mall game, which isn't available anymore, that was on Google Play only, and it was actually released in Japan and I think in China as well. I think it had 3 translations in it, but it made nothing, less than $1 a day. Really, like some days just 0, and I thought there was something wrong. I was like, wait, are we doing something wrong here? And I was like, no, we're getting the downloads because I can see it, but there's no ads in the game because the publisher didn't like ads. But nobody was purchasing anything. It was just, the game was not very interesting. It didn't really have much of a reason for players to come back to it. It was just sort of a click and wait game, and there's nothing to do during that waiting period. So the design wasn't enticing for the player. There wasn't very much replayability in it. But that was like the 5th or 6th time I've said now, where I thought, oh yeah, we're gonna make tons of money on this because Tiny Tower makes tons of money. We're making a similar Tiny Tower game. We'll make tons of money too. Just did not work again. Did not work, and it was a real shame because we had to then stop working with that team, the producer, the artist, and the programming team as well in Pakistan, and I was really upset about that again. Just because I was hopeful again. I was hoping that it would make a ton of money, and now it's very different because now I know that you can release. You're not going to get those hit things. It has to be a steady, stable revenue stream that comes from multiple games or multiple apps or multiple videos, whatever it may be. You can't rely on those hits a lot of the time because it just won't happen. So Monster Mall was a big learning curve, and we put a lot of time into that. Really, a lot of design time, a huge amount of design time. Even though it was similar to Tiny Tower, it was different. It couldn't be exactly the same, and so we had to do a lot of designing around that to kind of separate it from Tiny Tower. And we did some really cool artwork. The artwork was great. I think the release artwork was really nice. It looked really good, but just the revenue was absolutely just a killer on Google Play. And that was, I think it was released sort of late 2012, something like that. And at that time, in the mid of 2012, I was releasing more and more games, and I'd kind of forgotten about Google Play at that point. I thought, all right, let's just focus on iOS. And iOS revenue was actually picking up. I remember seeing my revenue recently, sort of in the middle of 2012, and it was like early 2012 was going up, yeah, great, and then mid 2012, great, and then it just started to trail off, and I was like, whoa, what the heck is going on here? I was getting better at keywords and SEO on iOS, and managing to get quite a lot of downloads, like between, I think I used to get like 800 downloads every single day easily for like Accelerate X, Ascend X. There's like a game called AAAX that I had as well. Flipping like Arrow Run X, I think was one of them as well. Killer Shooting Sniper X, that was one of them. Actually, no, that came a little bit later. But yeah, towards the end of 2012, I think, it just started to trail off and go down. And the reason I believe that started to happen was probably, well, one is because they was getting a ton of apps into the store, but I believe the other big reason was because of the iOS 6 update. It removed the list of searches, so there used to be 5 searches, and now they had this swipe card thing going from left to right. That was a huge impact. And Apple also updated to their Chomp, what is it called? Their Chomp search algorithm. And that messed up a lot of people's rankings. Small developers we're talking here, not big developers or big publishers. And it really had a huge impact, and the revenue just started to trail down. And so that was like gutting as well, because I'd had a really tough year in 2011. A tough, sort of like an exciting and then tough, like, release of Monster Mall, which was kind of hard to swallow again. But then after that, the revenue just kept on going down, and I was getting beaten up again in 2012. I mean, just working ridiculous hours, just killing myself. My skin was getting worse and worse through 2012 as well. I remember one time I went to see my friends, my old boss and my old colleague in the Starbucks, and as soon as I went to see them, they just went, "Oh my God, what? Well, dude, what happened to your face?" And I was like, "Oh man, it's really." I really made myself suffer through those years, for better or for worse. That was the case, and it really. I wouldn't have minded if I was starting to make good revenue and really get some momentum here, but because the markets just were getting more and more saturated, it just got harder and harder to really get anywhere, and my skin and my body was starting to sort of not give up, but starting to show signs of cracking at that point, especially on my face. As you guys can see the videos on how to make mobile games, it just started to get really bad in 2012. So, and then what happened next? So that leads us up to sort of the end of 2012. I think I'm trying to think of what happened next after that, but give me a second to think, guys, and I'll come back in a moment. So stay tuned and check out, I think, part 6, I guess, after this. All right, take care, guys. Bye.